Hi, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today on our webinar, Using an LLC to Invest with Your Self-Directed IRA. We're going to get started here in just one more minute, just to give people a second to log on and make sure their sound and everything is working. So bear with us and we'll get started in 1 minute. All right, everybody, we're just going to get started. It looks like everybody is ready to go. So I'm going to introduce our speaker for today. It is Sasha Bretz. She is a CISP and has been on the client services team as the team lead for 4 years now. So she's going to be able to answer any questions that you have. Just make sure that you type all of the questions into the chat box, to the questions box, not the chat box. So if you look at the top, there's a questions box and a chat one. To make sure your question is answered, please type it in the questions box and not the chat box. All right, so that should be it. Sasha, take it away.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited. We have a lot of registrants today, so let's get into it. So first, we always tell a little bit about Midland IRA. We offer self-directed IRA administration, 1031 exchanges. We're actually doing private custody outside of IRAs as well. So we're growing, we're excited about that. You can always give us a call to ask any questions on updates for our services. And our main offices are Chicago and Fort Myers, and then we do have our branch in Sioux Falls. So currently we do have over $3 billion in client assets and over 20,000 accounts from all over the country. We don't make commissions, we don't sell investments. It's a self-directed administration, so you get to choose what you invest into. We do not give legal, tax, or investment advice, but we do have individuals in the legal and tax fields. I myself am a certified IRA services professional. So, and many other of our staff have that designation as well. Again, the choice is yours. We do not give investment advice. We do not endorse any products. So all of the information discussed in this presentation is for educational purposes only. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, or financial advisor before entering into any type of investment. Okay, so checkbook control. You've probably heard of a checkbook IRA, checkbook control, and really what this is, it's a single member LLC. That's all it is. So an IRA can have checkbook control when there's a single member LLC and it's solely owned by the IRA. The account holder in this case is allowed certain desk duties, so they manage the LLC, and they're allowed to sign investment-related documents, and they get to operate the checking account. And it's just that. It's a single-member LLC with a business checking account. It's very important that the documents, the operating agreement especially includes necessary language, makes sure that everything is filled out properly, and Midland, of course, can offer some guidance there. So just a few notes is the LLC can be registered to any state with a registered agent. The LLC can have any unique name as long as it meets the state entity name guidelines. So certain states do not allow certain words like bank. You couldn't, name yourself something. Different states have different requirements, but it does need to be a unique name as well. If there's another LLC registered in the state too closely named, they may reject it, but then you just pick a new one. And the investments that you choose are actually titled in the LLC name, not to you, the account holder, or in the IRA vesting. And then a tax return does not need to be filed for any passive income generated through the IRA-owned LLC. I put an asterisk here and a little disclaimer. Income generated through debt finance or business operation may result in UDFI or UBIT. I am going to talk about that in the next slide. But first, I want to go back to what is considered passive income. So your IRA's purpose is to generate income for your retirement. And so this might be a buy and hold, or you buy some shares in a company and expect to see it grow. So passive income is typical to retirement type investments. So I am going to go to the next slide, and I want to start by giving another disclaimer. Midland is not a fiduciary. Again, we do not give legal, tax, or investment advice. At the end of the presentation, I will be taking questions, but I will not be answering questions about UDFI or UBIT. This is included to equip you with the tools for questions that you might want to ask if you're going to do investments through an LLC in your IRA. So just an overview here. What do you need to know? Really, more importantly, is who do you need to know? And you're going to want to know a CPA who understands these two things. So UDFI is unrelated debt financed income. This is generated when your IRA or your IRA LLC borrows money from a bank through a non-recourse loan. So let's say you put some money into your checkbook control IRA, into your LLC, into that business account that we talked about. You want to buy a property. Well, let's say you're just a little bit short and you actually want to get a mortgage. You can do that. And we have other webinars where non-recourse loans are talked about in more detail, and you can ask me questions later or give us a call to discuss this. But you can borrow money from the bank through a non-recourse loan. When you do that, the income becomes unrelated debt financed income. And so what's called UBIT, unrelated business income tax, can be generated. And also UBIT can be generated by participating in non-passive investments. A couple of examples might be regular short-term investments or active trading in business. So, again, the purpose of your IRA is to generate income for your retirement. It's not intended to be an operating business. If this becomes the case, that's when this tax may apply. The account holder is responsible for reporting the unrelated business taxable income on the tax form 990T, and the taxes are paid by the IRA. So if you have more questions about either of these, please talk to a tax professional. I say this because you would not go to your dentist to get a physical. Okay, so let's talk about some of the good stuff. Checkbook IRA advantages. So flexibility. What checkbook control LLCs give you is lots of flexibility. What you might not be able to do directly through your IRA, you can probably do through an LLC. Lots of talk about Bitcoin, trading, tax liens. So Midland itself is an alternative investment custodian. At this time, Bitcoin is not able to be invested directly through Midland. However, if you set up an LLC, you can do that. As far as trading goes, we're talking about publicly traded stocks. So Midland is not a licensed broker. We hold private stocks, but not public. But you can do that through the LLC. And then tax liens, again, not something that is held directly through your IRA, but this can also be done through an LLC. So flexibility is a huge advantage. Certainly more control. You can set your own deadlines. You can sign documents on your own time. This does put some more responsibility on your shoulders. You will perform your own record keeping and accounting for the investments. Midland's turnaround time is pretty good. We're usually about 2 to 3 business days. But if you want to invest maybe in auction properties, or you've got a really great piece of property that there's a lot of buyers and you want to be competitive. Also for private placements, non-real estate investments, if there's just these really short deadlines, having more control and ease of access to those funds are certainly an advantage. So I guess I went into the next one a little bit here, saving time. Having the ability to write a check on the spot, or set up an ACH from that business checking account to your investment is huge, and it can make or break a deal for you. Also related to real estate, unexpected maintenance repairs. Cut the check on the spot to your contractor. If you need, the refrigerator goes out, you can head over to a department store, pick up the appliance and get it, have someone install that for you. So I don't necessarily recommend, or I don't want to say recommend, I'm not, you don't necessarily need an LLC for real estate. And if you're just going to have 1 or 2 properties, it may not even be necessary. But certainly if you're very active and hold multiple properties, this can be very convenient. And another advantage of the IRA LLC is diversify. You can hold multiple types of assets, varying type, under one LLC. So one LLC can own multiple properties and a trading account and a Bitcoin wallet. So you can diversify your investments in one LLC. So just a few rules to go over. Generally speaking, most of you, if you've been doing IRAs for a while, you're probably aware of prohibited transactions and disqualified parties. So typically, you or your lineal descendants could not be the managing member of a corporation that that you're interested in investing into with your IRA. And it just comes down to the IRS does not want you to personally have access to your IRA funds. But the possible exception is for these single member LLCs, and that goes back to what I mentioned in one of the first slides, and it's You're allowed desk duties, signing documents and directing funds into investments. And you don't get to take a commission. So while you are acting as the manager, you don't get to take a salary or a commission. And that's, you do need to still keep your personal interest out of it. So, the IRA is really the sole member here, and the account holder or a designated third party is the manager. So that's the setup for the checkbook control IRA. The entity should be manager managed. This is going to be referenced on the operating agreement. So manager managed, not member managed. The member is the IRA. The IRA is not a person. Manager managed. The bank account is established under the LLC. So you would open the business checking account in the name of the LLC, and the manager has full check writing control. Also, annual state filing is required to maintain an active status. So I believe as a courtesy, Midland sends out a reminder the first year. But after that, you do need to remember to keep it active with the state. And there's usually a fee. You can just pay for that fee out of the LLC account. So some of our requirements, really these are requirements for any legally operating LLC. It's going to be the operating agreement. This is a document that needs to be created. Usually it's created by an attorney. There are LLC setup services. I'll tell you a little bit about what Midland can offer. This is this is the agreement between the member and the manager, and it states the intention of the LLC, which is any legal investment. It's very wordy document. It is required. So I would just say if you're looking at something like a legal Zoom for setting up an LLC, just be aware that they might set up your LLC, but it doesn't mean that the operating agreement is included. You will need a unique EIN if you're going to have the checkbook control. So a bank will require an EIN. You would not give them your social. You would not give them Midland's EIN. There will need to be an EIN applied for that LLC specifically. And then the articles of incorporation, or sometimes called articles of organization or some other name, this shows that the entity is approved by the state. And so that is a requirement as well. Midland itself has some internal forms. We do have an acknowledgement letter that is initialed. We have our private placement purchase authorization and investment disclaimer. And on an annual basis, there's a fair market valuation. And there is one specific for the LLC. It's available on the website. A little bit about what you can expect with checkbook control at Midland. So our role is to act as the custodian and record keeper to the IRA and its assets. And for such services, an annual fee applies. So an LLC is considered one holding for billing purposes, regardless of how many assets are held within the entity. If you'll recall, we talked about the ability to diversify. So you can actually have multiple assets or holdings in one LLC, and for billing purposes, the LLC is considered one holding or one asset. The fair market valuations for the prior year-end balances are due between January 1st, and we'd like those by the end of February. So those Those are coming due. So this would be, in this case, for 12/31/2020. And the evaluation should be supported with documentation, so like a bank statement or like a real estate tax bill, perhaps an investment statement. And also important to understand is that contributions, so personal contributions and distributions, should be made through the IRA directly, not the LLC checking account. So it will not be counted or reported if you contribute directly to the LLC. And if you take money out of the LLC as a distribution, it also will not be reported, and that would be considered, both would be considered a prohibited transaction. So you do need to do this through the IRA, and Midland is responsible for sending the forms 5498, which report contributions and the fair market value, and 1099, if applicable, to the IRS. So anyone that has a required minimum distribution, you would need to send money from the LLC back to your IRA and take the distribution from there. Okay, so a little bit about setup. So coming soon, we are working on a project that we're very excited about. I don't have a lot of info right now, but it's going to be a one-stop shop for sign up and setup for the IRA and Checkbook LLC. It's going to be for single member LLC and I'm told multi-member LLC. So I am looking forward to that just as much as you all should be. Currently, we do offer a fast and efficient LLC setup through a sister company. We charge a competitive flat fee, and there's an additional state filing fee. All we need to get this set up is the state that you want to register the LLC in. You will need to either have a residence or business in that state, or you'll need to have a registered agent, so someone with an address in the state that you want to register it in. And then what do you want to name the LLC? And feel free to get creative. So we can, if you don't already have the LLC set up, we can get it set up for you. And we just need to know the state and what you want to call it, and we will do the rest. So the presentation itself, I kept it relatively short because I anticipated a lot of questions. And so we are going to go ahead and address questions. So give me just a moment.
I will read them to you, Sasha. I'm going to start at the bottom with Michael. If you have an LLC in your self-directed IRA, do you need to submit an annual tax return for that LLC?
Okay, so no, you do not need to file taxes for the LLC if it's owned by your IRA, assuming you don't have any unrelated business taxable income to report. If you do, you do it on a 990T. If you're wondering if you do, please talk to a CPA.
All right. I currently hold a self-directed Roth IRA with Midland in the form of an LLC used for cryptocurrency. Can I also use this same LLC for productive farmland? Both investments would be in a Roth IRA.
Yes, absolutely. So the LLC that you have in your Roth that you currently have invested through cryptocurrency, that same LLC can invest in the farmland. Keep in mind that you would rent it out. This is not something that you could personally manage. You could develop it. The LLC would be the name on title. So the offer would be made in the name of the LLC. All income and expenses for that investment need to go through the LLC. And if you want to call me or email me with more questions to talk about this in further detail, because it is sort of an all or nothing with real estate in your IRA. But the short answer is yes, you can.
Would rental income be considered passive income?
Yes, rental income is considered passive.
Can my LLC reimburse me for expenses that I personally incur on behalf of the LLC?
No, it cannot. So you should never pay for anything out of pocket. Your LLC cannot reimburse you. Your IRA cannot reimburse you. What I can suggest, if possible, if you've paid for something out of pocket, you should have the IRA or LLC double pay that vendor and ask that vendor to give you your money back. And then don't do that again.
All right. Okay, looks like that one already was answered. Okay, we are a sponsor. How would this change the FMV reporting that we prepare for the custodian at the every year end? What kind of reporting is the sponsor required to provide to a Checkbook IRA LLC?
I'm not really sure how the relationship as a sponsor changes this. Our requirement for fair market value is basically that particular IRA's interest in the LLC. We want to know if it's a single member LLC, obviously the checking account associated. It should be simple enough to get a year-end bank statement. Any investments owned by that LLC, we can get the valuations for each of those assets. You basically add it all up, and that's the figure that we're looking for. The reason that we do this is because we are required to report that 5498 every year. I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, feel free to reach out. And if I can't answer it, perhaps someone in our accounting department can.
All right. What is a good rule of thumb for the one-time and ongoing cost to set up and maintain the IRA LLC?
Okay, so a good rule of thumb for setting up and maintaining, was that the question?
Yep.
Okay, so currently the fee to set up the LLC is $695 plus state filing. I don't know what, I know it varies state to state. Some states it's under $100. Other states, I think it can get up there. It just depends. For a Midland account in general, it's safe to bring over 1,000 on top of what you intend to invest. So if you're going to do the LLC setup, maybe just to be absolutely safe and no hiccups, just bring over 2,000 in addition to what you're planning on investing. That's your safe bet.
All right. How does an LLC invest in cryptos? Through an account with Coinbase in the name of the LLC?
Yes, exactly. My understanding is some Coinbases are more welcoming to LLCs than others, so you may just have to shop around.
All right. I have rolled over my IRA into a hedge fund. Is there a tax benefit to doing this via a checkbook control LLC?
So the tax advantage comes from it being an IRA. The LLC itself does not offer the tax advantage. It's actually the other way around. So the reason why you don't have to file a tax return for the LLC is because the IRA is ultimately the owner. So the tax advantage comes from the IRA, not the LLC.
Is there a way to write off losses in an LLC?
So probably a question for your CPA. Typically losses in an IRA, and we have to remember the LLC is an extension of the IRA. Okay, so typically in an IRA, a loss is just a loss. You don't owe it back to the IRS or to yourself. And as far as I know, just because of the tax advantage in place with it being an IRA, I don't think you get any further credit for that, but you're welcome to take it up with a CPA.
How does a multi-member LLC work for IRAs?
Okay, so a multi-member LLC, we can look at it two ways. There can be a closely held LLC, so you have maybe a handful of investors, they probably know each other. You can have some personal interests, some in your IRA. The best, I think the best way to keep it all straight is to think of your IRA as a person. It's not a bank account that you own. It's a person, it has its own interests. It doesn't want to pay your bills, you don't want to pay its bills, it's separate. So, a multi-member LLC, if it's a new entity being set up, you are allowed to partner alongside your IRA. So you can have personal interest, your IRA can be a member, your friend could be a member and put in their IRA. So there can be any number of LLCs and members in a multi-member LLC. Just keep in mind, if you're going to have any personal involvement, it needs to be a new entity, nothing that you currently own or are a part of, and each member has its own separate interests and must be maintained for the lifetime of that investment. So in other words, your IRA cannot buy your personal membership interests or vice versa.
All right. Afterward, will you be sending out the recorded webinar to everyone, or do we need to request it? I can answer this one. Yes, the recording will be emailed to everyone immediately after this presentation ends, so you do not need to request it. And then we'll also send you a follow-up email with Sasha's contact information in case you have any more questions that you didn't get answered today. All right. So let me see. We already got the LLC. Okay. What documentation is needed to transfer assets held in my Midland IRA under my name to a newly established LLC?
Oh, great question. Okay. If you already have investments in your IRA and you want to move them into an LLC, first you want to set up the LLC because you need something to re-register those assets to. So step one is to get the LLC established. You can contact Midland, tell us the state and what you want to call it. You can use a third party. Just make sure that they understand it is for a self-directed IRA to avoid a lot of back and forth. Depending on the investment, the paperwork varies a little bit. So for real estate, it's really as simple as a quitclaim deed. You simply deed the property from the IRA vesting to the LLC name. If it's private placement or private stock or something to that effect, it's just re-registering the ownership from one name, which is the IRA name, to the LLC name. It's a fairly simple process.
Okay. What are the fees to do that? To do like a transfer from your current IRA to a newly established LLC in your IRA?
Sure. So you'll have the LLC setup costs. The assets, it's going to depend. You may want to contact your representative with Midland to find out when your annual fee is due for that investment. So you can time it so that you don't pay for the asset and pay for the new LLC, the annual fee, I mean. So your representative can help you with timing on that. The actual re-registration is our transaction fee, which for 2021 is $100. I believe it's $100 just as a transaction fee to re-register.
Okay. How do you make an investment that is purchased by more than the single member LLC, such as part in my IRA LLC and part in my Roth LLC? And similarly, under what circumstances and how would I change a single member LLC to a multi-member LLC?
So I'm going to answer the last part. I don't believe you can go from a single member LLC to a multi-member LLC. What you would have to do is dissolve the single member LLC and then set up a new multi-member LLC. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. I don't think you can go from multi-member to single member either. What I can do, Brenda, if you want to send the rest of that question to me, I can reach out to this individual in more detail.
Okay, will do.
Great.
All right. Are expenses to visit / check on a rental property covered by the LLC, such as airfare, etc.?
So this question has come up before, and the answer is we don't know, but we don't think so. Typically any personal expense, really any personal expense, cannot be refunded by the IRA, whether it could be considered something that you could write off. I'm not sure. You could
I'm
talk
going to
to
bring in our compliance department on this one. Whitney is on the line, so she can answer this one a little bit better.
Perfect.
Whit, can you take this one?
Yeah, so tell me which one this was, because I was going to answer the one that was previous about the single member or multi-member, and I can also address this one. So,
Okay. So
I
if
know
you
the
want to
question
do the
was,
single member, multi-member one first.
yeah, so what I was going to say is we won't allow if you want to go from a single member to a multi-member just because it's something in your IRA and now you're changing membership interests. So since it's in your IRA, we would say, right, like as Sasha said, to dissolve it and to set up a new entity, or if you wanted to just keep that entity for something else and then set up a new one. Same thing with going from multi-member to single member. If it's in your IRA, again, you're starting to change, percentage of interest, and it can get a little messy, especially if there's things like disqualified parties involved, or if there are any of the members for that LLC. So again, we would usually just recommend you set up new entities at that point. And I apologize, Brenda, what was the
other
next
question was, are expenses to visit / check on a rental property covered by the LLC, like airfare, etc.?
I would say that it would not be. Essentially your IRA then is paying is reimbursing or paying for airfare essentially for you as the individual to go check on the property, and now you're benefiting individually from funds in your IRA. So I would say that that would not be something that you should be doing. Again, if you want to go personally check on a property in your IRA, I understand that, but again, you have to be very, very careful about again, not doing any repairs or doing anything that's going to be seen as benefiting yourself personally from an investment in your IRA still. So I would say that I wouldn't probably recommend that.
All right. Thank you, Whitney, for chiming in. I appreciate it. All right, Sasha, we're going to keep moving. We have a lot more questions here.
Okay.
What happens if your LLC buys an auto, so a car? Is this allowed?
It gets tricky. It can be argued if you have a rental property and you want to offer a vehicle for the tenants to use during their stay. I don't know if Whitney wants to step in on this one, or we can get back to you.
Well, you're saying, I guess I'd have to know if they're buying an auto as essentially an investment. I mean, it would depend, I have heard of individuals who purchase vehicles and lease them out or whatnot as an investment. Again, the purpose of your IRA is to make money for your retirement. So you'd have to, again, make sure that you're doing this and that it's somehow going to should really be increasing the funds in your retirement account versus you're buying this auto in your IRA and then somehow using it for personal use. So again, we need more information a little bit to know exactly what you're looking to do. So I would say it depends what you're looking to exactly do with this automobile that you're purchasing in your LLC. But could you do it? Yes. It just depends for what purpose overall.
What about purchasing a tractor or farm equipment for an operable farm?
So if it's an operating farm and you don't have it rented out to a basically a third party, you are going to be looking at that UBIT. So if you're leasing out the farmland for a company that does farming, then this is still considered passive. If you are providing the equipment, it could probably be argued that you're offering a service, and that can also be can generate UBIT. So you'll probably want to keep all your receipts and records, and just keep a good CPA or attorney on hand.
Great.
Just to make sure you keep everything straight.
I don't know if I asked this one, Sasha, so if I did, can myself and my wife be under the same LLC IRA account?
Yes. So spouses are considered disqualified parties to one another in IRAs, but the key is separate interests and a new LLC. So brand new LLC on the operating agreement. This would be a multi-member LLC or a closely held LLC. You would need to establish the percentages of ownership based on capital contribution. So what you put in is your ownership, and those percentages of ownership cannot change. If one member contributes additionally, the other member has to contribute pro rata, and same thing with taking money out of the LLC. If one member, maybe one being the first spouse's IRA, takes money out, then the second spouse needs to follow in suit.
All right. Is there any advantage to passing IRA assets to heirs using the LLC over the individual account?
You know, when you leave a beneficiary for your IRA, and Midland would reach out to determine the intentions of the beneficiary. Typically, they have the choice to distribute or put it in an inherited IRA or a spousal IRA. If you have multiple assets, it could. I can't really say. Honestly, I feel like it's almost a personal preference. It might be a cleaner way to consolidate multiple assets, but at the end of the day, if there's multiple assets, there's still going to be more than one item to follow up on. So I don't know that it actually does necessarily offer any advantage.
Okay. All right. If an IRA owner owns 49% of a company, is the company or the owner, unclear which way it goes, a disqualified person with respect to the prohibited transaction rules?
So with respect to the prohibited transaction rules, if there is a company where, and it's an accumulated disqualified party, so if it's father and son, and they each own 25%, while they're each under 50%, which you seem to understand is the cutoff, together they equal 50%, which is their personal involvement is too great, and they would not be allowed to put their IRA into that investment. But if we're talking about one disqualified party, their interest is 49%, but they also cannot have control, decision-making abilities over that company. So it's not just percentage. That's a guideline, which the IRS gives us very few of those, so we should be thankful. It's control or ownership. But technically 49% and no ownership over the company, technically your IRA is allowed to invest.
Okay, great. What advice regarding an existing Midland IRA single member LLC changing to a dual member version to accommodate a partial IRA to Roth conversion over time?
Roth conversion over time. Whitney?
I guess I want to make sure I'm understanding the question. It says, what advice regarding existing?
Yeah, what
to
advice
account.
regarding an existing Midland IRA single
I-
member self-directed checkbook
Are they saying? I guess my thing will be: are you saying you're doing a partial conversion of the um
LLC?
Existing.
of the existing member LLC from your, and you're doing a conversion, and because it's saying it's changing to a dual member version to accommodate a partial IRA to a Roth conversion. Well, that's an interesting question because you have a single member LLC and now you're essentially changing your
I think I can answer.
okay, go ahead, Sasha. Yeah.
Well, what I'm going to tell you, here's what you would need to do is you would need to open a new LLC in the Roth. And then my understanding is that yes, you can partially convert from the current LLC to the new Roth LLC. Would you agree,
Yes.
Whitney?
So probably right. That would be the best way to do it because you really can't convert the single member LLC and have now two members because you're changing now your interest, and that's an issue. They're both disqualified. So as Sasha said, you'd set up the Roth account, set up a new LLC, and essentially do a conversion of the underlying assets. So whether that's cash in the account or real estate or whatnot, and that's essentially how you would do the conversion then.
Okay, great. All right, so I had a question from somebody that he said it might have got skipped, but how did Patrick get crypto via LLC? My bank is Centennial and would not let me move money to Coinbase. What bank did you use? I didn't mean to skip you. He just answered the question in the chat box for you. He said he opened a business checking account via First Merchants Bank in Indiana. So that's where he did his. All right.
I
Let
would
me
just say if that particular branch is not available in your area, just shop around. You know, you should be able to move from your existing checking account to another business checking account, who will allow you to move it to Coinbase.
All right. Okay. The LLC receives rental income that goes into the LLC bank. Can I open a Merrill Lynch investment account and invest in stocks?
Absolutely. As
Okay.
long as
Now, if
Merrill Lynch.
so,
Uh-huh.
then if I buy and sell stocks, do the gain profit, does the LLC have to file a tax return?
No, because that's still passive. So it just flows into the IRA, same way the rental income, I'm sorry, into the LLC, the same way the rental income does.
Okay, great. I have a self-directed IRA with mostly farmland in an LLC. Do I have to wait for the investments to generate income to do further investments, or can I use the money in the IRA for future investments?
You do not have to wait. You can, if you have extra IRA funds to move into the LLC, you can absolutely continue to invest in other ventures.
Should I set up a new LLC for each property?
That's something I've heard from a handful of attorneys. I think that's just their personal preference for liability purposes. It's totally unnecessary. It's probably going to generate more cost than you really need it to. That's going to be a personal preference, but I don't believe it's necessary.
Okay, what is the fee for each rollover?
I'm not sure. I would need more information. So um, if you're talking about moving assets from your IRA into your LLC, we do tend to try to help you out. I had mentioned earlier that it was 100 or maybe even 145, depending on the asset, as a transaction fee to move assets from your IRA to your LLC. If you can provide all of the paperwork for all of the assets and we can do it all at once, I think we usually try to help you out instead of charging per asset. Get in touch with us and we can work it out.
Okay, if we open an account under TD Ameritrade with the IRA, do I still have to worry about taxes? Both as a regular IRA and a Roth IRA, I have bought and sold multiple times during the year.
So buying and selling in a like the brokerage field, that I wouldn't consider that like a short-term investment that could generate UBIT. When we say short-term investments, if that's what your concern is, talking about like fix and flips, which I was joking earlier that the IRS doesn't give us too many guidelines. So they don't say if you do 5 flips in a year, you generate UBIT. But if you do a handful a year, you're probably fine. But if you have a full-on operation where you're out looking for properties to fix and flip and you're doing it multiple times a year, that would be considered short-term, and you may end up needing to file that 990T. I hope that answered the question.
All right. Can the LLC pay for van repairs when the van is used for LLC purposes?
So, we mentioned the vehicle in the in an earlier question. It sounds like an operating business in that case. So you may want to talk to your CPA about the UBIT. I mean, really, if anything is part of the investment, it should be paid for by the IRA. If the vehicle is for investment purposes related to the asset, technically, fuel repairs. I would definitely take a closer look with an attorney and a CPA just to make sure that everything's running smoothly and how you have this investment structured.
Okay, so we're only going to be doing questions until 4 o'clock, or depending on your time zone. So we have about 7 more minutes. So we're going to try to roll through these. If I have an existing 100% owned LLC, can I transfer the ownership to my existing Midland IRA?
If it's personally owned,
That's what
no.
it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be no.
Okay. So when I opened my LLC checking account, I had to open it with a minimum of $25. I did this out of pocket to get the account open so I could wire the cash from Midland IRA to the bank. Will I face any IRS issues by doing this?
So this does come up a lot. If there's an audit and it comes up, if you have an explanation and work with a CPA, I technically this is prohibited, yes. And I'd like to offer a solution to anyone else, and that would be to either just go ahead and request a check from Midland through our bill pay. What I have heard is letting the bank know that Midland will be sending a wire the next business day, or they can expect a check next week. So the bank will open an account pending funds. So they'll give you an account number to put money into, and it's just not active until it's funded. That can be the case. You may be able to have a third party pay the account opening fee, and then later have either your IRA directly or that LLC refund that third party. I know it can get really tricky. So technically, that's not allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That was good. Okay. So in a multi-member LLC, can some members invest personal cash, and can some members invest from Midland IRA?
Yeah, so we did touch on that earlier, as long as it's a new entity and separate interests.
All right. A couple people want to know if the copy of the slides are going to be available. I am not sending out a copy of the slides, but like I mentioned, a copy of the entire recorded webinar will be emailed right after this. All right. For an operable farm, can you use the LLC to upgrade existing buildings and fencing so that it can be utilized?
The LLC would have to own the land to be able to do the improvements. So I kind of mentioned in one of the earlier questions with real estate, it's really an all or nothing scenario. You do have to be really careful. Feel free to reach out for more details.
How does one value an IRA LLC that you want to convert and transfer to a Roth LLC? Yes, I know I have to pay tax.
Okay, so for a Roth conversion, if you have real estate in the LLC, you do need to have an appraisal done. We are flexible if the property is valued under 10,000, so maybe it's, you know, a little lot somewhere, but anything 10,000 or greater does require a certified appraisal. We would want a bank statement and then statements for any other assets that you have. That's how the conversion would be taxed. It would be based on the total value being converted.
Can I sell the rental property myself, or do I need a realtor?
You can sell it by owner. You cannot take a commission.
All right. What are the annual fees for the self-directed IRA?
So it varies depending on the asset type, but the LLC itself is an annual fee of $325.
How do heirs of a Roth LLC IRA take title or liquidate the LLC and still keep any real estate associated within the LLC?
If they wanted to take it out of the Roth, they would need to get quitclaim deeds. They could either keep it in the LLC name, and they would be the one to benefit that LLC. If they're just going to leave it in the LLC, all they'd need to do is update the operating agreement to update the ownership. And then if they wanted to take property out of the LLC, it would just be a quitclaim deed, and they could just return any cash back to the IRA to take a cash distribution.
All right, farmland. We just bought an old farm this year with our IRA, and it needs lots of repairs to be usable. After we convert to an LLC and make repairs and improvements, if we can't find a leasee, or I cannot talk, for a whole property, can we hire a manager to operate it to produce a profit to put into the IRA?
Absolutely.
Sorry,
yes.
that.
Yes,
Okay.
you can hire a third party to, cultivate and generate income. Yes.
Okay. Will answers to questions be posted or emailed for all participants? So we didn't type out all of these answers. As you can see, there were a lot. So this is all part of the recording, which you will get emailed to you. So I sold a property 10 years ago, and the buyer called me back to see if I want to buy it. Can I buy it with my Checkbook Control LLC?
Could you repeat that? Sorry, Brenda.
Oh, it's okay. I said, I sold a property 10 years ago, and the buyer called me back to see if I want to buy it. Can I buy it with my Checkbook Control LLC?
Probably not. It could be considered structured. So considering it's a property that you used to own, probably not.
Okay. What about paying for account fees? Out of the account, or can I use personal credit card?
Either. Account fees, admin fees can be paid out of pocket or through the account. The LLC setup fee through Midland's sister company, that does have to be paid with IRA money. But Midland's administrative fees can be paid with a credit card.
All right. And our last question, and just in time. When I opened my LLC bank account, my bank did not require me to provide an EIN number, and I have not applied for it for my LLC. Is there an issue with adding an EIN to my bank account now?
If they didn't ask for one and you don't need one, then I wouldn't worry about it. If it comes up and you need one, it's simple enough to go on the irs.gov website and apply for one. If there is an issue with the bank, I guess probably worst case is just move to another bank.
All right. Okay, so that concludes our presentation on LLCs and a self-directed IRA. Sasha, I thought you did amazing answering all of those questions, and your presentation was great. Whitney, thank you so much for joining us and helping us with a few questions. Like I mentioned, I will email this out to everybody right after, and then send a follow-up email in the next couple of days with Sasha's information. If you do have any questions, her information is on the screen, but thank you all, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Brenda. Thank you, Whitney. Your participation was invaluable. I really appreciate it. And then just folks, if you are going to reach out to me, just expect a couple of business days for me to get back to you. And thank you so much for everyone's participation.
All right, great. Thank you.